Welcome to Look Behind the Look, the celebrated podcast that explores your favorite looks in film, television, and fashion history. Through conversations with the fashion world's elite and award-winning hair, makeup, and costume designers on sets around the world, you will see and hear exciting tales from behind the scenes, career origin stories, and tons of advice and tips. I'm your host, Tiffany Bartok. Hey everybody, welcome to Look Behind the Look. This week we are talking to hair department head Jaala Leis Wanless. The project she's on right now is Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. She and I spoke about this latest project, which is a behemoth. It's a huge undertaking. It's period, but it also needs to look cool, of course, because it is the origin story of the Pink Ladies, which we know and love and all have a concept of already. So how did she take that, make it her own, and make it so fierce and something that we want to watch week after week after week? If you know, and if you're watching this show on Paramount Plus, you know it is musical. Every week, it's a huge undertaking, and she's going to talk to me about how she does it all.
Good morning, boys and girls.
Thank you for the best summer of my short life.
And welcome to the 1954 to 55 school year.
Olivia, save your seat on my lap.
Sure to be our greatest year at Rydell yet.
We promised Roy and Bill we'd eat lunch with them today.
To end the divisions among us
I want to be a T-bird.
and become a truly united Rydell.
He told me exactly what you did to get that jacket.
It's not as bad as it seems. These things blow over.
Maybe for you.
I'm here with Jaala. She is the hair department head of the Rise of the Pink Ladies. I have my pink on for you, Jaala.
I see that. I like it.
I want to talk to you about so many things. Let's see, where do we begin? The first question I have for you, this show is on Paramount. If you haven't seen it already, it's releasing weekly, yes? You can't binge it yet. You can binge the first 5 episodes right now. Those are available. And is that how many episodes are in this season? You never know. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 7.
There are 10 episodes in this
10
season.
episodes. So we've got 10 episodes to enjoy of the Rise of the Pink Ladies. It's such a fun show. It must be so much fun to work on. Tell me all about it. How did you come into dealing with a period look that was also updated? That was the main question I had. How did you keep it not so locked? It was a little bit cooler.
That's a really great question. And, I think it starts with a lot of research. So I went back and I watched, Grease, the original Grease, and then I watched the second Grease, and I went back and I took notes on both of them. So when you go back and you watch the original Grease, you could definitely see influences of the 70s. There's little finishing details, the way that updozer plays. There's various ways that, as a hairstylist scream, okay, this is definitely coming from the 70s, even though they did a fantastic job. Then when I went into, the second Grease, you could definitely feel the 80s vibe going on there, right?
The second one is secretly one of my very favorites. I showed it to my son with so much enthusiasm. He did not feel the same way. It was like we grew up watching Grease like every day, the original. So, he felt very betrayed by the second one, but it does have an 80s look to it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it does. And so, I was going through and like, hey, what's identifying this as this time period? So I was going through and taking notes. And okay, that's definitely 80s. That color is definitely 80s. That way that's happening is
the feathering. The feathering.
But in the 80s there is a penchant for over permed and white ashy highlights. And there's like specific color tones that we see every generation and sort of every decade of there's always a color, there's a trend, there's a something going on. So I identified both factors in both films, and I said, okay, all right, so how do I add my own stamp onto that, bring it into the modern day, but still be able to reflect a 50s vibe? Mm-hmm. How do I sort of pull it back and actually make it a bit more historically accurate? And I
Okay.
think that's what I was leaning into. And so after I took notes on both of those films, I actually put together a giant lookbook that I put together for the show. And it was a Bible that I gave to all my team members, any of the day players who came on. And it had a study of all the hairstyles from all the different types of ethnicities and cultures. And it broke it down into various things. I'm like, okay, everybody, this is the direction we're going to be going in. And I want to see these.
Because you're dealing with another monkey wrench where you have actual diversity in the series, which wasn't there in the 50s. So,
Right.
how did you apply those hairstyles, to such a different texture of hair? Was that a challenge?
Yes and no. I mean, for let's say for, a lot of our Black actresses, we actually did a lot of wig work with that.
Okay.
When I went into and studied the 1950s, there was a term they call it whitewashing. And a lot of the Black women at that point in time, wearing natural texture hasn't been a thing until like the last 10 years where we've seen a big push for natural texture. But back in the 1950s, there was a lot of perming. There were those, straighteners, all that. But then on top of that, there was a huge hairpiece and wig culture for Black women in the 1950s. They had some great magazines. It was, what was it called? It was called Hue. So there's some great advertising magazines that I went through, and I looked at advertising, hairpieces, wigs, that kind of. So when we were dealing with that, we had to, I wanted to bring that element, that historical element, and brought it in for some of our natural texture cast, and it worked out great. It worked out really good, I think.
Can you define for me what whitewashing is for people who might not know? I don't know why they wouldn't know, but
Well, that's a great thing. So there's actually in a couple of the episodes of the show, we see Jane's mom, and she's talking about, I can't tell people I'm Puerto Rican. I have to tell them I'm Italian, because there are certain levels of acceptable whiteness in the 1950s. And so whitewashing at that point in time would be trying to give off the appearance of appearing whiter for as a status sort of symbol. So that would mean, for example, if you're Black in that period of time, you would be doing everything you could to hide your natural texture. So you'd be wanting to curl it, to perm it, to be wearing wigs, so it gave off the appearance of being smoother and not so curly and natural textured. So it was sort of a means of trying to disguise who you were to fit in with this sort of white idealized standard of living at the time.
And I mean, of course, it still happens today, but it's much, things are getting better slowly. I noticed that there's so many people in the cast. So what are wigs? How do you manage this? What are wigs? What is natural hair? Is there more of one than the other?
Well, that's a great question, actually. And if you couldn't tell, that's even better.
Oh, good. There you go.
When we first started off the show, the showrunner and our executive producer, who was directing the first 2 episodes, they really went in the direction where they didn't want to use a lot of wigs.
Okay.
And that's a challenge all into itself, because some people don't have the hair needed to create those styles, right?
Yes. I mean, they are so big. So like if you have somebody with fine hair, like
right.
What happens?
So, we did the best we could. And we had, like I said, we had an army of little curling irons and we had a whole team of people. So we were creating these looks every day. Whereas when you have wigs, you can have them preset, have them ready to go. When your cast come in, it saves time in the morning. So for the first, I would say, about 3 to 4 episodes, we were doing a lot of manual work. And by about episode 4, I started slipping more wigs in. It came down to be a necessity, right? We had so many people coming through our trailers in the morning, and some of those looks were very finicky, and some of the people just didn't have the hair, or if you have somebody with alopecia and they have 10 strands of hair, we've got to do something. So, eventually, and I think it was a trust factor too. And I think they realized that, wait a second, these look really good and they don't look wiggy per se.
Oh, they were afraid of the look of it being, of looking too costumey. What was the aversion to the wig use in the beginning? Budget?
That's a great question. And I'm not quite entirely sure. Maybe it was a question of trying to make things look as authentic as possible. And I understand that. Like you want things to look real.
Sure.
And I get it. And I've seen some bad wig work and you're like, you can tell it's a wig.
Right.
And you can tell it looks bulky and it doesn't look real. So,
and sometimes when it's not, when you're a producer, that's not your industry. You're just so afraid of what you can't unsee that look, and you don't know, like, hey, wait, I can make this look. I can make the wig move. I can make it. Yeah.
I can do all of these magical things. So it was funny because, I just started slipping them in very carefully. And I think when we had the introduction of the character Hazel, Hazel is a wig. And, like a very beautiful, like amazingly, the texture of the hair, everything about it was just beautiful. And the soft roller set. And, this is our first chance really to start showing off, hey, this is how a wig can look. And they were really happy with that. And they're like,
and look at how much time we saved. Look at how much earlier she came to set.
Right. I mean, our mornings were so crazy busy. We'd be processing forever, just the amount of people that were coming through. So, a wig here and there was like,
yeah. Oh my goodness. So tell me how long each episode takes. So what is the length of time that it takes to shoot a musical number? Let's say, is it a whole day? Is it 2?
It depends. And, it depends on how many people are in the scene, how big the scene is, how long the song is, and what it comes down to. Some of the scenes you'd be able to shoot in a day, and then some might take a couple of days to work through.
I can see that.
Right? Because every cast member you have coverage, you have angles. You want to make sure that you're covering every which possible angle you can on that. And so when you have the bigger musical numbers with more of the crowd, it can stretch out for a long time, or sometimes a couple of days.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that solo number in the hallway, that must have taken a little less time, but it was good. That was a good number.
The Jane
what was the name of this? Yeah.
I Want More.
Yeah.
I Want More. I still get goosebumps when, she was, that was a last minute song.
Oh, really?
It was, and we didn't film it when we were filming episode 1 and 2. Oh. It was this moment of, we have this amazing song, we want to put it in there, and we really feel like this episode needs this song. And so we filmed it probably when we were around episode, I would say 6, 7. And Marissa was absolutely amazing.
Wow.
she was so fantastic. That girl's so talented. I think they gave her maybe a day or 2 to record, figure out the moves, and then she just went in there. It was so powerful. So I still get a little teary.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Isn't it just, do you get that? Are you all getting that feeling on set when you look at what's happening and what you're creating? I mean, what's the vibe?
Yeah. I think the vibe, when we first, like the first 2 episodes, it was so incredibly busy on set that I didn't have a chance to even really stop and go, what am I doing?
Sure.
What's happening? Yeah. What is this, I was just so laser focused on making sure that everything across the board was, sitting in a place that I was happy with.
Yes.
And then later down the road, there's a couple moments and I was like, whoa. It was sort of this moment where everything sort of sunk in, and I'm like, whoa, this is really, okay, this is good. Okay. All right. Yes. I'm happy. Okay. I think I'm happy. Yes. Yeah, it's working.
Yes. Yeah. As a leader, are you the type of person that feels like they have to do everything themselves at first? Do you have to, like, I'll do it? Or are you comfortable delegating and sort of just overseeing the whole machine? Or do you feel nervous to let things go? You know what I mean? Let go.
No, Yeah, I think you've got to hit this from a couple of different angles. I think when I was first prepping the show, obviously I was doing the research, I was collecting the accessories. So it becomes like my singular focus at that point, right?
Yes.
When you start bringing other teammates and other people on, you have to be able to trust people, to be able to take on different responsibilities and do stuff. There's absolutely no physical, mental, emotional way that I could do everything by myself. It's just not going to happen. And so, well, yes, I'm part of the design process overall, and I'm running interference between the producers and the directors and working with costumes, trying to figure stuff out. When it comes down to my team, it'd be like, okay, this is the idea. This is where we're going to be going with it. I'd like to see this. Please integrate this. And then you have to be able to turn things over to people and allow them to be artists and to make this vision come to life. You have to be able to let go. And that comes with, trusting people, surrounding yourself with people who have good skills. And also, sometimes maybe you have people who don't have those skills, but those skills can be taught. So,
so you think it's good to take time to, I mean, some people feel like it's like, if you feel like something's not going to work, you have to take care of it right away and just get rid of it. And some people take the time to coach. What do you see as more beneficial for your team?
Well, both. Now, sometimes when things just have to be, if you have to get rid of something immediately, it's generally because there's a time constraint.
Sure.
And that comes down to something's not working. It needs to immediately change. Maybe we have to get that person to set right away.
Right.
So in those cases, in those instances, it's like, okay, that's not working. We have to change direction. Let's pivot. Let's get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get into the other situations where we have that time to play and to sort of figure things out, I think it's really important to teach skills. I think that when you have those time, you have to teach and you have to share your knowledge, right?
That's awesome.
You have to. And how do we create a generation of artisans and technicians if we aren't sharing our knowledge with them? It's so key. You never know how one piece of knowledge or an idea that you pass on to somebody else will spark their creativity, and then they'll come up with something new. So that's the spirit of ingenuity and innovation. I think you have to have a balance of both things in your department. You have to be able to be like, no, that's not working. Yes. But then you also have to have that moment where you allow your team members to be able to creatively thrive.
I love that. Yeah, because how many times in your own life, in your own career, did you just go, they just never called again and I'll never know why, and like the value that you feel of, like, sometimes even though it feels like crap, like just, okay, we're going to teach you how to do this. You know what I mean? That's right. So valuable and makes the person feel valued and not just as some kind of appendage. So,
well, yeah. And I think, I think if you look at it in terms of setting people up for success instead of setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously there's decisions and, when you're a department head, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of people coming down on your shoulders. But I always try to empower people to be able to take initiative on their own. I think that's really important. And, if something's not working, then I definitely give them feedback. Hey,
I love that.
Let's just let's go hang out in this corner for a second. Like, okay, maybe you should be paying attention to X, Y, Z. Something would happen. And this is how you would fix this issue that you're having with right now. Maybe we need to approach it this way. And let people think about it. I find if you let people think about solutions and they almost come up with those, it's like they're generally more willing to put it into practice. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's you have great. To teach people. Yeah.
Where are you guys shooting? Are you in New York or LA?
We are actually shooting in Vancouver.
Are you? Okay. So I was wondering if it was theater kids or in the cast, is it mostly musical theater kids or is it TV kids that sing and dance? What's the background of most of the cast?
I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that a lot of them did come from musical theater, theater backgrounds.
Such great voices.
Yeah. Dancers. I mean, they're powerhouses across the board.
Yeah.
So I think they all came from a very background, we had a lot of professional dancers that came on board that eventually became speaking parts or became
cool.
characters. Yeah. So, they, I think they just went through and they found, I know that there was auditions in the States. I mean, I wasn't part of the casting process, but
Right.
I mean, they did a phenomenal job picking from such a very talented group of people. So they were a pleasure to work with.
And
sure.
are you Canadian as well?
I am
hear
Canadian.
an accent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I process. Process is always the giveaway. We're all like process.
Okay. I'll remember that for next time.
No, it's good. It's good. Everybody loves Canadians, Jaala. It's like,
okay.
It's a good thing. So tell me about like the rough, like not a day that you dreaded, but because we know we're happy to get to work every day and we seize the day with a smile, right? But
right.
What was a day that maybe tried to kill you?
Yeah, there's a couple. And so I think for episode one, we're at the drive-in and we do the opening sequence credits. We're singing Grease is the Word.
So exciting.
It was very exciting. And we had to put off filming for that by a couple months because it was torrential rain here in Vancouver.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. So, in our winter time, it's torrential rain, gray clouds. It's very wet. It's very cold. It's very damp. And so we were waiting for a moment where we could be outside filming at an actual drive-in movie theater.
Oh, my
so I
God.
think it was about April, beginning of April-ish.
Okay.
And we're doing a night shoot. It's a Thursday, Friday kind of deal, I believe. I think it was that time. Anyway, as we had been filming for 2 months already, of course, I get the phone call from the production manager. Listen, we want to get the processing time for all these people. So it was about 200 plus background.
How much time do you need? They wanted to know. They wanted to know how much time. Oh,
they weren't asking us how much time. They were telling us.
Oh,
we need all of these people ready. Plus, I think so it was 200 and some background. And then we had 2 pages on the call sheet of cast. So we were looking at about 85, 90 cast members. I mean, it was full cast. And then
because they're introducing every character.
And all and all these dancers. And it was, it was a little stressful. So they were like, okay, we know you can get all this stuff done, but we need all these people ready in 2 hours. And I was like,
2 hours.
2 hours. And we couldn't find enough people to just throw at that, right? And we had a COVID restriction in our hair trailers. We had 2. So we couldn't
have that many people in the trailer at once.
That's right. And we couldn't have that many people working, and we had COVID restrictions, and it was that was very.
What did you do?
We worked very fast.
Yeah.
Very, very fast. I've never done so many barrel roll curling iron sets and clips as fast as we did.
Oh
we were just
it was like a McDonald's like line. You were like a line cook. Yeah.
My poor team, by the end of it, we're all just like looking at each other like we all look like we've been in car accidents, and we're like hobbling over to the shuttle going, whoa.
Oh my
okay.
God.
And we had we had 2 specific nights like that, and we had the pep rally night too. That was just
brutal.
It was brutal. So those are the two times that really stick out to me, because it was, you could only work so fast. And as I was telling them, I'm like, you guys realize that like certain things actually take a physical amount of time, and we actually can't cut corners, right?
I know. It's like, do you want it to honor the period and be that quick? What do you do with that conundrum? How do you solve that problem? Because I know you're a problem solver.
Yeah. How do you solve that problem of not having any time to do anything?
Yeah.
You find more people, and you try to find more space. So in some of those instances, we actually had extra tents set up a circus. So, and then we had to compartmentalize, like, okay, dancers are going to this tent, and these people are going to this tent, and these people are, going to this area. And we just didn't have the physical capacity to handle everybody at the trailers.
So budget wise, like, this is like so intricate, but like, if you're talking to the producer and they're like, how can we do this and stay in budget? Is it going to be more smart? Is it going to be smarter money wise to have more people and more tents, or is more time more economical?
That's a loaded question. And I think it depends, like, I wasn't obviously the producer on that show, but it comes down to time parameters.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, it comes down to, do we have, that 3 or 4 hours before call time? Do we have that allowance, that time to do things? Or, is there, with some of our locations, there is a time constraint on these locations.
Sure.
And so processing time has to be cut down. There's no ifs, ands, or but about it. Right. So in those cases, you get as many people as you possibly can to speed things up.
Nice.
Right. So It comes down to, and I think when they intrinsically know that if you are condensing this time we need to get people ready, then we have to increase the amount of people that we have on our team. And so we had a few of those conversations, and then eventually it just got down to, like, hire as many people as you need. Okay. And I said, great, no problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And everybody was excited to get that call. Come work on Pink Ladies. Yay.
They were.
Yeah.
They actually were. I mean,
at the drive-in. I mean, honestly, that must have been a blast.
It was great. You know what? I had a popcorn machine in my hair trailer, and I actually made popcorn for my whole team. So we had little paper bags. Yeah. So there's, we had some great moments. So we're, sitting outside. It's 2 a.m. It's freezing cold. It's amazing what we're working on. I show up with, like, a wagon full of popcorn. I'm like, hey, everybody, I've got some buttered popcorn. So we had these fun moments as a team together.
Oh, I love that. And I also wanted to selfishly ask you about the Benedict Society.
Mysterious Benedict Society. Okay.
Yes, that is a very popular show around the house here, and we love it so much. And I wondered if you could share any experiences about working with all of those kids, and, like, what was that like? And was it a lot, or was it just pretty easy? Because the kids seem pretty precocious in the first place, so they seem like they might be a little easier to work with.
They were like, they were a bunch of good kids.
Yeah,
and they were, they were just happy to be there, and they were very, like, so they were really lovely to work with. Tony Hale, amazing. Kristen, Ryan, Bruce. It was actually a really magical little show to work with, because, working on kids shows have a different feel.
Yes.
And we have a different shoot schedule because, kids can only work from a certain period of time. So it has a different vibe to it. And it's always nice to work with kids, because that stress level when you're dealing with adults is kind of gone. It's more of a kid friendly, and that show was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed
Tony Hale and Kristen Shaw are kind of like kids too, right? So
really, they're just really good people. They're really good people. And what I loved about that show was, because it's sort of set in this weird alternative universe, kind of like a Wes Anderson feel.
Yes.
I was able to draw from a good 50-year range of hairstyles. So you see everything from the, 1920s all the way up into the 1970s. It was kind of this weird gray area. So it was fun, like, introducing things that were just a little off, or you couldn't really figure out what time frame it was. So that I really enjoyed, because it was sort of this wide spectrum of, like, maybe I should throw this in there. So they were really great about letting me sort of figure out directions of things and be a little bit more creative in that regard.
You seem to really have the period thing down. So, I mean, is that what brought you to The Rise of the Pink Ladies? How did you get to that job?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, the same producers I worked with on Mysterious Benedict Society were the same ones that had, asked me to sort of to pitch for this.
Okay.
And I had worked on a pilot that shall never be seen. Of course, you know how some pilots go. We worked on a pilot together just previously before this. And when they called me in the summertime after the pilot, said, "Hey, we've got this big show coming up. This is what it is. We would like you to, put your name into the hat. We'd like you to be part of this." I said, "Okay." I said, and I think my last thoughts when I was talking to them on the phone was like, "You do realize this is going to be a big show, right? It's going to be massive."
Did they say yeah?
I think so. I think, I've worked on a few musicals before and a few helped out in a few period bits here and there. But I honestly feel like if people haven't completely been immersed in the world of musicals and historical hair, I don't think they really grasp the concept of like how much work it actually is.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. To be that convincing for that many episodes and look that seamless.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, especially with musicals. There's angles, this, that, resets, there's rehearsal. There's just a lot going on all the time.
It's quite a feat that you have taken on, and you've really, really killed it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really happy because when I was watching the show, I felt when I was watching the hairstyles, I'm like, you know what? It's not overwhelming the character's look. And I was really, really happy about that. So that's been like my general overall, like, oh, the character is wearing the hair isn't wearing the character.
Yeah. It really honestly looks like they got up early and did their hair. Do you know what I mean? It looks like, because sometimes, of course, as we know, it looks like, oh, they went through the trailer, and I mean, not to say that that's not a good job, but like I'm saying that's a great job because it looks like it's them and their personality and how they would wear their hair that day at school. And I love that because then you're focused on what's happening in the scene and, you can enjoy the show.
Yeah. And so that was really important to me to make sure that it was coming across as believable. And I think, if you're really sort of nailing what you're trying to accomplish, then, it suits the character, and you're right. There's sometimes where I'm watching TV and I'm like, and I'm kind of wincing because it really looks perfectly done. And you're just like,
that person did not get up and do that and go on their way. No, someone else, 3 people were there and swearing. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, really tried to bring an element of realism into that. Yeah. So, and I maybe in about 10 years from now, I'm going to look back and it'll be like, wow, I can really see how we brought in current time period into that historical feel. But right now it's a little too fresh.
Yeah, no. I think it's great. And I love the show. Benedict is having a second season. Have you heard anything about Rise of the Pink Ladies yet?
Well, not officially as of yet. And and I think that the cast would be announcing that if that were the case. Nothing yet. So, keep your fingers crossed. And
we've got everything crossed for that.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And anything else that you're working on right now, Jaala?
I'm currently just taking some time off and enjoying life.
Much deserved. Yeah. Talk about that for a second, about how you have to, I mean, it's hard not to just keep chasing that next job, but if you don't take a break, you're going to burn out.
Yeah. Burnout's a real thing. I mean, there's always going to be another show. That's when I first started off in this industry. That was like the best piece of advice. There's always going to be another show, when I was younger, I was like, I have to be part of this. I can't miss this. I have to be part of this. I have to be part of that. Right. And, eventually what you find is that it takes a toll on your physical well-being. It takes a toll on your mental health. It takes a toll on your relationships and having a social life outside of film. Film can be very all encompassing because you're working long hours. Yeah. You're not getting a lot of sleep. You're in a cloistered, you're in a very tightly controlled environment. So that does become your life for a period of time. And I think it's really important to take breaks away from that and step away from that environment and go have a life outside of it. When you take time for yourself, especially, you know, with all the creative things I got going on, I have to pull back and I have to work on things for me, things that replenish me. Because I think when you're working in a film environment, you're doing a lot of things for other people.
Yes.
You know, other people, you know, tight pressures, other demands, being very creative. I was extremely creative on Grease, like super, I was building so much weird stuff. You know, but at the end of it, you have to pull back and be like, okay, I need to be selfish.
Yeah.
I need to make things without parameters. I need to be creative without restrictions and time restrictions and budgets. So
yeah. Not feel so limited. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh.
You gotta feel free. Yeah.
Jill, it was so good talking to you. I can't wait
Thank you.
to see. Can't wait till the next 5 episodes release so I can watch them. And everybody else, check it out on Paramount. And we will be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you. Okay.
Look Behind the Look is a Vinyl Foot production, written by me, your host, Tiffany Bartok, produced by Jace Bartok, edited by Evan Rivard. If you're interested in learning more, find our video version on the YouTube channel, Look Behind the Look Podcast. There you can see rare photos and clips from our guests. And please follow us on Twitter at LookBehindPod and Instagram at LookBehindTheLook. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe. And tell your friends and spread the word. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or any podcatcher of your choice. Thanks for listening to Look Behind the Look.